Welcome to channel. Have you ever imagined the possibility of retiring before the age of 40 without needing to accumulate $1 million? It seems like a distant dream, doesn't it? But today, we're here to show that this reality can be more tangible than you imagine. In this video, we'll explore smart and practical strategies to achieve financial independence and attain the long-awaited early retirement, even without a mountain of money in the bank. If you're ready to transform your vision of the future, join us on this journey towards financial freedom. More than half of the adults surveyed by GeoBanking Rates said they don't expect to retire before 65 years or older. But there are people who have managed to leave the 9 to 5 life much younger, people like Billy and Akaisha Kaderli, who retired at 38 years old in 1991. Over the past 26 years, they have traveled the world and lived life on their own terms. The Kaderlis didn't win the lottery or inherit an unexpected fortune that allowed them to quit their jobs. In fact, they didn't even save $1 million. The Kaderlis retired before the age of 40 with around $500,000. If you want to increase your savings and retire earlier, keep reading to learn more about how they did it and how you can too. But before we dive in, don't forget to like the video, leave your comment, and subscribe to the channel to stay always updated. Thank you. Find your motivation. If you think you want to stop working full-time, one of the important questions to ask yourself before deciding to retire is, before we continue the video, allow me to introduce an offer that can completely change your financial trajectory. Access the link in the description below and discover an extraordinary opportunity to earn money significantly and sustainably, all through the internet. Why? Don't let this chance slip away. Billy and Akaisha found their motivation a few years before taking the leap into early retirement. After working as a chef at a restaurant he and Akaisha owned in Santa Cruz, California, Billy changed careers. He landed a job at the financial firm Dean Witter Reynolds and became a branch manager and vice president of investments. He worked during the week, while Akaisha worked nights, weekends, and holidays managing their restaurant. As a result, the couple barely saw each other. It wasn't working, Akaisha said. Our relationship was going through a real crisis. While trying to cope with the stress in their relationship, Billy heard stories from clients about how they had taken month-long vacations in Europe or other exotic trips. It was a tease for me, but it let me know there were people out there who could do it, he said. That's when the seed was planted. But Billy had this idea, Akaisha said. Why not see if we can live off the money we've invested and travel the world? Calculate how much you need to save. As soon as the Kaderlis had the idea of retiring earlier, Billy began crunching the numbers to see how much money they needed to invest for it to happen. If you want to know how much money you need to maintain your lifestyle today, you need to figure out how much you're spending and multiply it by 25, he said. They figured they could live on $20,000 a year. Multiplied by 25, that meant they needed to save $500,000. Billy calculated that this amount would allow them to withdraw 4% annually, $20,000, while the rest remained invested, continuing to grow and generate enough income for several decades. Cut expenses to increase savings. The Kaderlis were 36 years old when they set the $500,000 savings goal. That's when they began cutting unnecessary expenses to sock away more money in savings. We started investing every penny we could, Billy said. Akaisha said it wasn't too hard for them to cut expenses because neither of them was a big spender. Plus, they had a strong motivation not to spend. We were driven by the dream of being able to travel for long periods of time, she said. But we were thinking, I'd rather do this than what I'm doing now. Over 2 years, they managed to accumulate $500,000 in savings through investments and the sale of their home and restaurant, and in January 1991, at the age of 38, they quit their jobs. Create a money machine. The Kaderlis leveraged the power of compound interest to increase their retirement nest egg. As they built up their savings, they invested their money in index funds that tracked the performance of the S&P 500. Since we retired in January 1991, the S&P 500 has averaged returns of 10% per year, Billy said. Thus, their initial investment of $500,000 earned interest, and the interest continued to compound at an annual rate of around 10% on both the principal and accumulated interest. When you spend 2 or 3%, you've got 7 or 8% left over that keeps growing, Billy said. As a result, their net worth is higher today than when they retired. We created a money-making machine, Billy said. That's why I was confident this would work. Travel cheap. Being able to travel was one of the main motivations for the Kudurlis to retire early. But they had to find ways to do it cheaply to keep their annual expenses below $30,000. The Kudurlis own a small manufactured home they bought for $2,000 in an active adult community in Mesa, Arizona, in the early 1990s. But they rent it out most of the year and travel full-time. Since 1991, they've visited over 30 countries in Europe, Asia, and Latin America and kept costs low by house-sitting, staying with family and friends, and renting apartments for several months at a time. Sometimes they even stay in hotels but get a significant discount by requesting a monthly rate instead of a daily or weekly one, Billy said. They buy fresh local food instead of packaged imported items. Since they don't own a car, they often use public transportation, walk, or even hire a private driver in countries where the cost is low instead of renting a car. And they've saved thousands of dollars a year by finding restaurants and hotels that cater to locals rather than more expensive options near tourist attractions, Acacia said. Billy said Mexico currently has the best cost-benefit ratio if you want to retire abroad. They know retirees who live well there on less than $1,000 a month. Keep healthcare costs low. Retiring overseas allowed the Kudurlis to take advantage of low-cost healthcare, which helps keep their annual expenses low. They had a health insurance policy with a deductible of around $10,000 to $12,000, Billy said. But they dropped their policy because they found it was cheaper to pay cash for medical care in the countries where they traveled and lived. How to save: retirement survival strategies for rising healthcare costs. In most years, they spend about $3,000 to $4,000 on all healthcare, including medications, glasses, dental care, and even emergency surgeries. The care they received was fabulous, Billy said, noting that many of the hospitals they visited abroad even provide translators. They recently enrolled in Medicare when they turned 65 and signed up for Part B coverage, which covers doctor visits, services like lab tests and surgeries, and medical supplies. Although Medicare usually can't be used outside the U.S., the Kudurlis avoided a potential penalty by enrolling now instead of waiting to see if they'll need it if they ever return to the States. That's because the monthly premium for Medicare Part B increases by 10% each year you qualify but don't enroll. Track spending closely in retirement. To avoid spending their savings too quickly, the Kudurlis track all their expenses in a spreadsheet, Billy said. That doesn't mean they set strict spending limits for themselves. They happily spend and still progress. For example, if they spend too much on one day, they'll just eat the food they already have and won't spend any money the next day, Acacia said. They know the average value of the expenses they can afford daily, so they can keep the annual withdrawal from investment accounts at around 4% per year. You can see the type of spreadsheet they use and how they track their spending in their book. Your retirement dream is possible. Invest Social Security benefits. Billy and Acacia decided to claim Social Security early, at age 62, even though it meant a permanent reduction in their benefits. If you start receiving Social Security at 62 instead of full retirement age, your benefits could be reduced by up to 30%, according to the Social Security Administration. But Billy calculated they'd be better off financially if they received Social Security as soon as they became eligible and invested their benefit checks. If their investments grow by 8% per year, they'll end up with more money than if they had waited until full retirement age at 66 to receive a higher benefit. Have a cash stockpile. When the Kudurlis retired at 38, all the $500,000 they had saved was invested in the stock market and index funds. We had very little cash, Billy said. After going through several market downturns, they started socking away money in a money market account. The reason they did this was to avoid having to sell investments at a loss during a recession to get the money they needed for living expenses. Billy recommends that retirees who are nervous about the market have enough cash in a savings account or money market account to cover expenses for a year. Don't let boredom become the thief of your long-awaited early retirement. Many may think this is a luxury reserved for the privileged few, but the truth is, for some, the idea of retiring early can seem daunting. After all, what to do with all that free time? The Kudurlis, however, are a living example of avoiding falling into the trap of retirement boredom. When asked about it, they respond with a firm no to the question of whether they're bored or feel they're wasting their lives. Akaisha, with wisdom accumulated over the years, always suggests that people make a list before they retire. A list not only of places they want to visit, but also of skills they want to acquire and experiences they want to live. When boredom knocks at the door, just take a look at your list, she advises. The Kudurlis are a clear example of how to stay busy and avoid a common mistake in retirement planning: existential emptiness. And if you choose to explore the world beyond the borders of the United States, there's a world of opportunities waiting to keep your mind sharp. Billy suggests that learning new languages or at least some common phrases can be a stimulating way to pass the time. And there's always a need for volunteers anywhere in the world, so you'll never be short of options to contribute to important causes. Additionally, early retirement combined with world travel offers the unique opportunity to accumulate enriching experiences and meet fascinating people. Akaisha emphasizes that throughout their journeys, they have encountered a myriad of interesting individuals, from diplomats to rock stars. We have a treasure trove of stories to share, she states. And the value of these experiences is priceless. So, do not underestimate the transformative power of a well-planned early retirement filled with adventures. Keep having adventures. The Kudurlis are currently in Guatemala, in the Lake Atitlan area, surrounded by ancient Mayan culture. They have been living there for about 7 years, also visiting the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Mexico, Panama, Thailand, and the USA during this period. Next spring, they plan to visit some places in Asia and Europe where they haven't been yet. We'd like to continue our traveling lifestyle as long as we can, Akaisha said. Since we're only 65 years old, we feel we still have a few years ahead. The bottom line: retiring at 40 is possible, but it requires being proactive and very good at delayed gratification. So, crunch the numbers and seize every opportunity to save and earn. The earlier you start planning, the higher your chances of retiring early with the money needed to enjoy it. So, if you're contemplating early retirement, remember, boredom doesn't have to be part of your future. With careful planning, a list of dreams to achieve, and an open mind to new experiences, you can turn your retirement into a journey full of discoveries and accomplishments. Don't let fear of the unknown prevent you from living an extraordinary life. Go ahead, embark on this adventure, and create memories that will warm your heart for a lifetime. The world is waiting for you. Early retirement, make it the best phase of your life. We hope this video has inspired you to rethink your retirement and pursue a life filled with meaning and adventure. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now to not miss any of our upcoming videos on how to make the most of life after early retirement. Thank you for watching, and until the next video,